Let's just get one thing straight. Gossip isn't just harmless chatter. It's like a bad shot of espresso that leaves a bitter taste and ruins your whole fucking vibe. If you're dealing with loose lips, backstabbers, or rumor mongers, you're not alone. But here's the buzz. Witches don't just sit back and take it. Unless if they want to. We bind, we silence, and we reclaim our peace. Whether it's at work, in your social circle, or even your own family. Today we're caffeinating your magic to stop the nonsense for good. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm your host, Michael Blackthorne, and today we're diving into the art of shutting it down. We're talking binding spells, my friends, how to stop gossipers in their tracks, restore harmony, and protect your energy. No fluff, no fuss, just actionable magic you can use to reclaim control of your space. So grab your notebook, light that candle, and let's talk about putting an end to the chaos. All right, so gossip, like the issue with gossip, y'all. Gossip has been around forever, most likely. But in today's world, it's like wildfire. A single rumor can ruin reputations, break trust, and turn once harmonious spaces into toxic battlegrounds. Whether it's a coworker spreading lies or a friend twisting your words, gossip isn't just an annoyance. It's an act of harm. And let's be real, it doesn't just fizzle out on its own. It really doesn't. And you know what? Oh, fuck. Like, even when it does fizzle out, there's a mark, there's a stain that is left that really just does not go away. So left unchecked, gossip can snowball into an energy draining mess that nobody wants to deal with. But here's the thing. Witches don't just let problems like this fester. We don't waste our time engaging in petty drama or trying to rise above while someone tears us down. Instead, we take that energy, focus it, and use it to create solutions. I feel like the whole rise above thing is, sure, it's nice to be able to do that, but I feel like it comes from a very privileged place and point of view. You know what I mean? So binding spells are one of the most effective tools in our magical arsenal for dealing with gossip and troublesome individuals. They're not about silencing someone just because they annoy you, unless it is. They're about stopping harmful behavior dead in its tracks so you can protect your peace and restore balance to your space. Let's break this down, okay? What is binding? At its core, a binding, I feel like you just... I feel like it's common sense. If you think about, like, what does it mean to bind and just apply a magical, outlook. But sometimes people just don't, sometimes it's just too easy to understand where you're like, no, it has to be something more, right? And it's like, no. That's kind of what it is. Let's break this down. At its core, a binding is a magical act of restriction. Think of it like tying someone's energy up in a way that prevents them from causing harm or whatever. Like locking a door to keep the chaos outside. Binding isn't about, binding isn't about harm or revenge or destruction. I feel like because a lot of people have this sort of, perception of binding. I used to have a certain binding. I just don't like being tied to anything. What does that say about me? So I have issues sometimes with binding, but it is a perfectly well used tool in a witch's arsenal for sure. But I think sometimes people associate outright like binding with harm or revenge or destruction, and it can be those things. But it's not like it's naturally not like it's neutral, maybe, if that's what I'm trying to say. It's not necessarily just those things. There's so many reasons and so many ways to utilize binding. It is about setting firm boundaries and keeping harmful actions in check. It can be a tool for protection, not just punishment, which it can be used for as well. Binding often gets misunderstood and again, like I said, lumped in with curses or hexes. And again, we are pro curse and and pro hex in this space. Like, do you? Sometimes they are necessary. Binding magic gets lumped into all these things that people are uncomfortable with, so people don't actually try, or they don't utilize it as much as maybe they could or should or would. And so let's not associate it with just one thing. It is many things. So let's just be clear. A binding spell is definitely about restriction. We're restricting something. We're binding something. It's not innately, it can be, but it's not innately about retaliation, but it can be. You see where we're going here? It's not about harming someone, but it can be. It's really, though, at its core, it's focused on stopping harmful behavior. So think of it as a magical cease and desist order. When done ethically, again, who the fuck am I to say what is ethically and what is not? So I know what I would do when I would do it. So when I say when done ethically and effectively, it's not a judgment. It's not me placing judgment on you or your practice. It's you having to discern what that means for yourself. Okay. So when done ethically and effectively, a binding spell can help you reclaim your energy and your peace without escalating the situation. Binding isn't a magical cure-all. Nothing is. It's incredibly effective. Absolutely. Well, I should say this, and I guess, damn, I'm like wishy-washy, I feel, but I'm not trying to be. Witchcraft is just so nuanced. People are so nuanced that you just have to be mindful of that. So it can be incredibly effective, but if you're not an effective witch, like if that's not your thing, or if your skills aren't there yet, it might not be as effective. So we have to take all of that into consideration, and there's nothing wrong with that. We can grow. We can get better. So it's incredibly effective, but it comes with its own set of challenges. For one, it doesn't replace addressing the root of the problem, whether that's a toxic workplace culture or your own need to enforce better boundaries. And if you're not careful, a poorly constructed binding spell can, I know this is going to be like a trigger word for people, backfire. It can backfire. And some people are like, oh, nothing can backfire, nothing backfires. And I'm like, that's not true. In my perception, that's not true. Yeah, it can backfire, energetically linking you to the very person you're trying to silence. And no witch wants that mess. So that's kind of like my thing, where I've always been with binding, because you're really restricting and you're tying something together, but at times you can tie yourself to that binding, and sometimes you can't like escape that. Like that's just inevitable. And so that's kind of like my thing, where I don't like, it's not my first choice, but it is a choice. Does that make sense? This is my long ass ramble to say in today's episode, we will be diving deep into the art of binding. We'll explore, and specifically in how to stop and restrict and gossip, people talking shit. We'll explore how to craft binding spells that are effective, and you can basically take this and utilize it across the board for different things. Yeah, that are effective, ethical, and tailored to your specific needs. We'll talk about what binding spells are. Again, we've already kind of done that. How to use them in work and social settings, and the importance of staying grounded and focused while doing this work. By the end of this episode, you'll have the tools and the confidence to take on gossip and harmful behavior like the powerful witch that you are. So let's get into it. All right. The energy of gossip. Gossip isn't just idle chatter. It is energy. Everything is energy. And I think it fitting, like Mercury retrograde starts November 25th, right? So it starts this week, and this comes out. So this is very interesting to me to see how that goes. So gossip isn't just idle chatter. It's energy, plain and simple. Every word spoken carries power. It carries intention. It carries energy, vibration, whatever you want to call it. Every word spoken has power. And when those words are negative or harmful, they become a directed flow of negativity. And if you think about it, when people are gossiping, it's a lot like, ooh, what's this? And so there's a lot of interesting, energy, juicy energy around it that makes it more, and we see that a lot when gossip, starts. We see it like just take on a life of its own, and it just goes cray cray. Gossip can cling to you like a shadow, manifesting as tension, anxiety, or even unforeseen obstacles in your personal and professional life. It's more than just someone talking behind your back. It's an energetic ripple, which I love that I'm explaining it like this. Like, it's an energetic ripple that disrupts harmony in your environment. So it is like that one bit of gossip. It does have this ripple effect, and it's all of these ripples then make more ripples into other people's like circles and other people's lives. And it's just, it's gross. That's what it is. So recognizing the weight of gossip, the harm it does, and the way it festers is the first step in reclaiming your power and cutting off that flow of negativity. And let's face it, gossip thrives because it's fucking easy. It's easy. It's the quick fix for awkward silences. Yep. The shortcut to feeling connected. And the temptation to stir the pot is almost hardwired into us. I really feel that. Like, I feel like gossip and the need to connect via gossip is like almost hardwired into us because we're living this earthly experience. And so like what is this earthly experience without friction, without chaos? And gossip is one of the ways to achieve that with an easy, connecting point. But yeah, we've all been there, leaning into gossip to relate to someone else, or even as a way to feel powerful in a fleeting moment. It's a human habit. It's also a trap. Gossip thrives on insecurity, both in the gossiper and the one being gossiped about, and it feeds off environments where boundaries are weak or non-existent. Sometimes it feels like we're hardwired. Again, like I said, it does feel, I really do believe it's like we're hardwired for gossip. And I don't know if that's something innately across the board, if it's a social construct, if there's something more to it, whatever it is. But it's a form of storytelling after all, a way to feel involved, important, or even validated. But again, here's the thing. It's a cheap thrill. It builds relationships on shaky foundations. Think the tower card, my friends, and it creates challenges where there didn't need to be any. Gossip doesn't just harm the person being talked about, it sets you up for failure too. When we build connections based on shared negativity, we're creating bonds that lack trust and stability. And in the long run, those relationships rarely hold up. And it is like we've all done it, and we will all moving forward probably do it again. But when you build relationships off of gossip, it's just not good. It doesn't feel good. It's gross. And then you can't really trust the people you're talking shit with, because what did you build your relationship on? Talking shit. Breaking the habit of gossip takes awareness and intentionality. The sooner you recognize it for what it is, a drain on your energy and a distraction from your goals, the sooner you can release it and refocus. I do find this a lot. It's like when we gossip or when we're trying to what's being said or who did this, it's because we're not taking accountability for our own life in whatever way. Like, do I need to be focusing? Yes, I do need to be focusing on my own bullshit and what I need to be doing in my life. I need to be, cleaning the fucking house and wiping the damn fan blades or whatever. I need to be doing my work. I need to be filing this or helping that person, or I don't know what I need to be doing, but I do need to be doing something, because gossip is not it. I want to escape, right? I want to escape in a different way. And I don't mean a vice. I don't mean go get addicted to something. No, not that. But learn I have power. I have potential. I have things I can achieve. Let me stop worrying about this gossip and let me start applying myself where I would be gossiping or caught up in that. Let me do something actually active and helpful to my life. You don't have to use gossip to build relationships or relate to others. In fact, when you step away from the negativity, you create a space for deeper, more authentic connections based on trust, mutual respect, and shared purpose. And let's be honest about that. Those are the relationships worth investing in. They really are. As witches, We're not here to get pulled into the mundane cycles of gossip and drama. Our craft is about desire, is about intention, transformation, and empowerment. Gossip is a distraction from that purpose. Instead of feeding into the energy of rumor and speculation, we channel our focus into creating solutions, protecting our peace, and reclaiming our narrative. Gossip doesn't have to define us or our relationships. With the tools of our craft, we can redirect that energy, cut off negativity, and build something stronger in its place. And so it makes me think of, like, you know, the people who are casting money spells, abundance spells, prosperity spells, all this shit. But then in their social groups or Facebook groups, they're sharing PDFs of copyrighted books. It's like you're stealing, or these, this is a pet peeve of mine, these fucking small ass witch businesses who are buying bullshit off of Temu and selling, like, people are selling tarot and oracle decks that are theft, right? That aren't even real, that are not the actual decks themselves, and they're making money off of it, right? But it's from theft. And so they think that, I can cast these spells and that energy is not going to go against me. No, that fucking energy will. And I think I see it as the same thing as gossip. And so that's why I'm like, you know what? We have to be mindful of the energy that we carry with us, the energy we partake in, and what we do moving forward. And so if we're gossiping, if we're talking shit, if we're really hurting people, and gossip does hurt people, no matter if it's lighthearted or not, it hurts. And so that energy is added to that sort of collective energy about our practice, about us as witch, about who we are. Anywho, it's important to acknowledge that, again, we've all been guilty of gossip at some point. The key is not to dwell in shame, but to recognize the harm it can do and commit to stepping away from it. When you stop engaging in gossip, you take back control of your own energy. You stop feeding the cycle and start setting a higher standard for how you interact with others, and more importantly, how you allow others to interact with you. And so, like, again, no shame. We're going to fuck up. Like, we will, I think that's just a human thing. Like, we are going to get caught up in gossip, but when we recognize it for what it is, we can now stop it. We can now say, you know what? No, I don't want to do that, y'all. Let's not do that. Let's do something different. Let's talk about something more productive for us. We have to be that person, or we should choose to be that person anyways. At its core, binding is just that. Binding. It's about tying someone or something up energetically, restricting their ability to act in ways that affect you or others. What that binding achieves, however, depends entirely on the witch. It can be used for protection, silencing gossip like we're talking about today, preventing harm, or yes, even enacting revenge or punishment when the situation calls for it. And only you, the witch, can discern when the situation calls for it. Binding is a tool, neither inherently good nor bad. It's the intent, the desire, the execution behind it that shapes its outcome. Like any spell, its purpose is flavored by the will of the witch casting it. And I also want to take a minute to say, like, binding as a curse, binding as a hex is also not inherently good or bad. I don't think that hexes and cursing is a bad thing. But it can be depending on circumstance. So it's like, if you are cursing the oppressor, if you are hexing the patriarchy, I don't consider that a bad thing. But if you are the oppressor and you are cursing and hexing the oppressed, right? I consider that a bad thing. Because yeah, so it's kind of like you have weird fucking shit go on. Like, you have MAGA witches, which is disgusting. I will say that, and I don't fucking care. I find that bad, right? Gross. And then you have others who are not, who are, stand with the oppressed and stand with the marginalized and stand for liberation and freedom, and all these things, right? I don't consider that bad. Consider that good. A little bit about that. So binding isn't, again, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, just like nothing in witchcraft is. Everything is situational. It can be as subtle as dampening someone's influence or as firm as stealing their actions entirely. It can hold harm at bay, force someone to confront their own behavior, or when necessary, exact consequences for wrongs committed. Whether it's silencing harmful gossip, keeping an abuser from further harm, or even turning the tables on someone who refuses to leave you in peace. The magic does what you will it to do. And as witches, we're not bound by the need to justify every action to anyone else. We act with it desire, intent, and we bear the weight of the outcomes we create. We act in accordance to our highest good, whatever that means. So as witches, we acknowledge that magic has consequences. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I feel like, what am I trying to say here, y'all? So as witches, we acknowledge that magic has consequences. Obviously it does, because you can't escape that. That's not pushing someone's ethical blueprint out on anybody, but like what we do, no matter what, even just not as a person, everything we do has a response. Everything we do has a consequence, right? And so we're not here to say, oh, if you do this, something bad will happen, or if you do this, something good will happen. It's really not about that. It's just when we cast, when we take action, it's a ripple, right? There's responses that happen in accordance to that. And so we have to acknowledge that. Like binding is no different. If you bind someone to stop their harm, you are, I feel, assuming responsibility for the balance you've disrupted. And so, or maybe it's not even disruption of balance. Maybe it's for the balance you've created. I think about this a lot. And again, I don't have like a solid answer for myself with this. It's like, okay, so when you bind someone to stop their harm, and we own our own actions, we own our part in something, it very well, maybe we disrupted a balance there, but if it happened, I also trust like things happen because they're supposed to on some level, not everything, not always, but on some level there's that I consider. And so if I bind someone to stop their harm, I was meant to do it. And so was that actually disrupting balance, or was I enacting balance? It's really a mind fuck when you start thinking of things like that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter. Do what you will and be okay about it. Be about it. So maybe they can no longer act it out so this person that you've bound, maybe they can no longer act out in one way, but their energy could redirect itself elsewhere. That's not necessarily a reason to avoid binding. It's simply a reality to be aware of. It's part of the responsibility we carry when wielding power. I feel this at my core. Like, a lot of people will be like, I'm gonna bind this narcissist, and I'm like, do you? Everyone's different. Everyone's results will be different, but it makes me nervous when people don't consider the fact that when you bind something, you restrict something, they very well can redirect that energy elsewhere, and that can be also as problematic. So example is, you have someone who is in a relationship, they have kids, and one of the partners is extremely narcissistic. And so a witch would bind that narcissistic, abuser, but don't realize like they have shared custody of kids. And so instead of like, let's say that person gets bound, the abuser gets bound, and then the narcissistic abuse redirects towards the children, or the narcissist utilizes the children to get back at the other partner. Does that make sense? And so those are things that we have to, I feel like, are responsible witchcraft. Personally, again, you can disagree with me, but I feel like those are things that we need to consider and take into consideration when we do these things, not just binding, but anything. And that's why when we kind of like think of it in that way, we can start asking, like, is binding the right solution for this situation? That makes sense. Binding is not your necessarily everyday solution. It's not for shutting someone up because they annoy you, unless that is, I don't know, I'm not going to judge, I'm not going to tell you, or because their presence is inconvenient. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure a lot of us would love to just shut up, bind that person, like, you're inconvenient to me. But it's probably not the best solution. So anyways, it's for situations where like harm, emotional, physical, energetic is being done. Gossip, my friends, gossip. And no other methods have worked to stop it. Binding is a deliberate, intentional act, and it works best when you've tried mundane solutions first, or follow it with mundane solutions, absolutely. If you've set boundaries, had conversations, and still find yourself in the crossfire of someone's negativity or malice, binding may be the answer. The key is clarity. What is your desired intent? What is the outcome you're working toward? When those are solid, your binding will be too. I find that to be extremely important, like in all witchcraft, but like especially with things like binding, because we might want to bind someone because of so many reasons. And so when we're doing our work, when we're casting our spell, everything starts to come up. Why we want to bind this bitch, or bastard, whatever. Not judging there. Either or. So, like, you know, all the things might come up, and that might like muddle our energy and distract us, and so our results may not be as great. So clarity is extremely important when we're doing things like this. I'm gonna be honest. Harm isn't a dirty word in witchcraft. As witches, we understand that harm is sometimes necessary to protect ourselves or those we care for. A binding can absolutely cause harm if that's your desired intent. And there's no shame in acknowledging that. What matters is owning your actions and being clear about why you're doing what you're doing. If your binding is about revenge, say that. If it's about silencing someone who's spreading destructive lies, be honest about that. Magic demands integrity, not to some external moral compass, but to your own truth. If you're going to act with purpose and stand by it. And it's so important. Like, I hope that I don't come across as preachy or judgy in the sense where you should do this and not that. It's more of just like, you have to figure out what is right for you and be about it. And I do find, like, if someone is running their fucking mouth and that gossip is hurting, like, you, I don't see an issue. Like, of course, I want this to stop, but you know what? I also want that motherfucker to be hurt. Like, I want them to feel the hurt that they've caused me or my family or the people that I love. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to have that conversation. Like, it's okay. You shouldn't feel bad about anything, bad about yourself for feeling that way. Doesn't mean you're a bad person for feeling that way. Now you might be wondering, why not just banish the problem entirely? Wouldn't it be simpler to get someone out of your life for good? Well, in an ideal world, maybe, but the reality is banishing isn't always practical. And sometimes, or even possible, but sometimes, like, we need a quick binding, like, to really, to tie someone up or to restrict, to make sure they can't move, and then we kick out and banish. It's kind of like tying someone up and then pushing them off the plank and letting and letting them drown or something. It's a lot like that. Sometimes we need a binding before banishing, and every situation is different, so you have to discern what works best for you. But sometimes we can't. And so there are situations where a person's presence in your life is unavoidable. Think about workplaces, shared social circles, or family dynamics. If you're stuck working with someone who thrives on gossip or dealing with a relative who refuses to keep your business to themselves, banishing isn't an option always. That's where binding comes in. And I know some people are like, well, you're just not a strong enough witch. And it's like, no, it's not about that. It's about being smart, especially if you think about it. Someone is working at a company. Let's say they're getting paid really well, especially right now in these days. They're not looking to move. They're not looking that this is their bread and butter. This is their commitment. And so, yes, you can manipulate and you can cast to remove someone, but their spirit, their ancestors, if maybe they have magic, working for them too, their stuff is really rooted where they're at right now. So banishing may not be the best, smartest way of tackling a situation yet. So sometimes, especially when it comes to workplace and family, and depending on who you are or your family dynamic, I should say, you can't get rid of someone. And so that's where binding really does help out. Binding is a strategic solution. It doesn't attempt to remove someone completely. Instead, it neutralizes or works to neutralize their harmful action while keeping them physically present. Imagine binding as tying up loose lips. I don't know why. I'm so stupid. I just laugh, but I don't know. Or freezing someone's ability to spread negativity. It doesn't disrupt the larger environment like your workplace or family gatherings, but it gives you space to breathe from their toxicity. A coworker who's just a little bitch and just keep running their mouths. So if you just bind them, then they may still run their mouths, but not about you. They don't look at you, right? So that could be easier for you to get your job done, to do your work, and to navigate the workplace. Another reason binding can be the better option is its ability to maintain harmony in delicate environments. Banishing creates ripples, sudden absences or changes that can draw attention and potentially create new conflicts. Binding, again, if you think about it, if you banish this coworker who is good at their job, blah 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 blah, they just have a gossip issue, and then you banish them and they're out. The person replacing them, maybe they suck. Maybe they're not good at their job. Maybe they're the person you found out that the actual person was protecting everyone. They just had a gossip issue, not to make light of it, but that's their thing. They just were a gossip, but they were actually doing their job and doing it really well. And, then you banish them because of the issue, and you find out, they actually did a lot. And now none of that's being done. And then there's more pressure on you to get all these other things done. Does that make sense? It's interesting to think about these things because it's very possible that could happen. It has happened. Binding, on the other hand, is subtle. It stops the issue at the source while allowing everything else to continue flowing. For instance, again, like we talked about, if a coworker's gossip has been making your life miserable, binding can silence them without disrupting the workplace dynamic. It's like pressing mute on their negativity while keeping everything else intact. So that might be the better option. You just don't know until you start to ask yourself all of these questions. Binding isn't just about damage control. It's also a preventative measure. Gossip has a way of spiraling out of control, especially in tight-knit environments. By binding someone early, you can stop that energy before it gains momentum. It's like nipping the problem in the bud before it blooms into a full-blown disaster. This is really helpful, when you're in a new kind of setting. Again, some people might think that this is ethically not okay. Do what you want. But if someone's oh, this person is a known gossip, and they weren't gossiping, they're just saying, hey, this person likes to run their mouth, just be aware. And if you pick up on that, you might, before you really build that relationship or build that working relationship, you might bind them from gossiping about you or whatever. And that would be a great preventative situation. That said, there are times when banishing is the better solution. If someone's presence in your life poses a significant danger emotionally, physically, or spiritually, and there's no shared environment to consider, banishing can be a powerful way to create permanent distance. But for situations where you need to coexist, binding offers a practical and effective alternative. Binding is incredibly effective at stopping or redirecting harmful behavior, but it's not a miracle cure. Just be aware, it doesn't change the root of someone's actions or the root of their being or who they are, nor does it erase the harm that they've already caused. A binding is like slamming the brakes. It stops the motion, but it doesn't necessarily fix the damage. That's why it's important to pair magical action with mundane solutions. Document harmful behavior, seek support, and address the issue from all angles. Magic works best when it's a part of a larger plan. Binding spells work through focus and intention. Desire, that lust for results, right? The clearer you are about what you want to achieve, the more effective your spell will be. Are you silencing gossip, protecting yourself from harm, or forcing someone to face the consequences of their actions, or all three? All of the above, right? Know your goal before you start and don't be afraid to get specific. Binding isn't a vague concept. It's a deliberate act of magic that requires precision. Let's get into the juicy morsels. Binding spells require symbolic tools and ingredients to focus your desired intent and anchor your magic. Think of each item as an amplifier for your purpose, enhancing the strength of your work, while the classics, candles, strings, herbs, are staples. Adding creative elements like clay, specific roots, or even everyday items like glue can make your binding spell uniquely powerful. This is where we can have fun a little bit. Because there's so many different things you can work in binding, tried and true, things, or you can kind of get a little creative with okay, if I want to shut someone up, how would I do that? Do I know something that they think is really spicy and then they oh my God, I can't talk, it's too hot. Do I include that? Do I know, are they allergic to something, that causes them to a little swelling, but not something severe? Maybe I can use a touch of that in when I bind someone, look, don't talk because you can't talk. Just get creative, have fun with it. Witchcraft is fun. Beyond the basics, okay, let's dive deeper into how you can creatively assemble powerful binding spell. So candles are great. Black candles for protection and neutralization. You can use white for peace and balance. Or even if you're let's say the binding you're doing, it's gossip, but let's say, someone you love is gossiping, and it could be if it's someone you love, a friend, you could do pink or red. I know red is again, this is just how I think. If you associate different colors and different associations, that's fine, do that. But I feel pink and red is great for relationships. Pink is more for friendship, but sometimes there's that red fiery nature to a friendship that you might want to use instead. So black candles, again, for protection, neutralization. White for peace and balance. White can also be for again, for specifically binding, because if you think of it, white, it makes me think of headlights, bright light, I can't move, I can't see, so I have to stop. So there's that. You could use string or ribbon, again, red for silencing harmful speech, or pink for restoring harmony. So again, it just depends on how you want to work this binding. Maybe you start off with red, you're silencing harmful speech, and then you work with pink to sort of restore harmony to a situation. Lobelia, gag root, it's known as pukeweed. Disgusting. But it has a history of magical use to gag people, oh, gross, gossipers. So it's in its presence, you can't speak, oh, can't talk shit. So you can utilize that in your binding spell. You can make a spell bag if you'd like, carry it on you, or incorporate it into your spell work to energetically block harmful words. Slippery elm is really good. So it's classic for silencing gossip and kind of smoothing over volatile situations. And so black walnut hull powder, or black walnut, whatever, is great for shutting down toxic connections. Alum. Nope. Fuck. I told myself I was gonna search how to really pronounce it the right way. And I didn't. I forgot. Whatever. Alum. Fuck. Perfect for stopping slander, gossip, talking shit in its tracks. Great, right? And these are just a few things. There are so many different ways to add stuff. You could add something like that. What is it? Like they have that really, really sour stuff you can do. Like, it's like, oh, can't talk. It's like super sour. So you might add some of that into the work that you do. Tag locks. So I think when and where available, especially with binding, tag locks are a witch's best friend. And what are tag locks? Are personal concerns, personal items. So like incorporate something that connects to the target, like their hair, a signature, nails, just anything personal that they've touched. And honestly, if you can get something personal like hair, that's the best. But even if they like a spoon, like they ate something, or you have to dig. This is where it's kind of, depending on the person, you dig out of their garbage, you can get something. You gotta be crafty. And if all else fails, you can just go, print a picture of them out. There's so many things though, like, get creative. Think about how I want you to think of like herbs or just items that could be really used for shutting someone up or shutting that specific person up, binding them, freezing them. You can use fear tactic. Like, someone is like deathly afraid of spiders. You could use a big ass image of a spider where they just like, oh fuck, like they're still because they don't want to make any sudden movement because they're scared as fuck, right? So I want you to think of it in that way. I don't want to give too much away, like all these different things you can use. I want you to be able to think of it in a way where you're setting yourself up for success and future success. Okay, what would be really good to kind of shut someone up? What would stop someone from speaking? What would really stop someone in their tracks? Or by specific person, right? What would stop them in their track? Think of things like that, okay? And use that in the work that you do. Clay. This is a fun one. I have a spell where you can shape a tongue out of clay to represent the target's harmful speech. And you can have really a lot of fun with that one because you can get as detailed as possible. You can cut open like that tongue and you can put like your herbs inside of it and like whatever and then seal it back up. There's so many different ways that you can do that. Glue used to seal, like Gorilla Glue. Don't fuck up, y'all. Don't mess with get that on you. But like you can use glue to seal the harmful words to again stop someone. You can take something and like a figure, like even those popsicle stick cutouts of figures. You can name that person that you're binding, and then you can stick them in some Gorilla Glue or something that's really they're not moving, and you can incorporate that sort of into the spell, the work that you do, and you can then tie ribbon around it or whatever. Get creative for yourself to stop talking, for them to stop talking bullshit, stop talking shit, whatever it is, but like get creative. So again, like clay to make a tongue or glue to like seal something in, and not like nail glue if you're a nail tech or if you're in the beauty industry and you have access to nail glue, and you don't have like Gorilla Glue or anything else. Like don't use Elmer's glue because that shit's like, you can peel that shit off. I feel like if you want to use glue, use something that is going to stick. Unless like it's a temporary type of thing, then maybe use like that Elmer's or that light glue. Does that make sense? There's so many things, but have fun. Like have fun with it. When you're formulating your spell, you want to think about it and what do I have available to me? Because we don't always have gag root, right? We don't always have like slippery elm. We don't always have like alum. We don't always have the thing, but we do have something that we can really use, So just giving you that as an example. Now here's a little process. So when you're doing your work, maybe ground and center. So before you start, it's really good to ground yourself and really focus on clarifying your desired result and really like get your energy moving, work that up, ground, center, clarify your intention, and really get yourself into a clear mind space and focus space where it's really benefiting your spell work. You need to be in it, but you also need to be able to focus. Prepare your space as you do whether you do the witch's compass, whether you do, like, you cast your circle, whether you don't cast a circle, if you invoke things, if you invite your spirits, guides, ancestors, gods, whatever, do that, do your thing, light your candle or candles, like if you wanted more than one candle, do that. And again, when you get crafty, you could inscribe your candle with the person's name, their birth date. You can put your, like, specific intentions, like your desires, your words of power on that if you'd like. There's so many ways to get creative in spellcrafting. Gather your tools. Feel free to incorporate, like, music and chanting, incense to heighten your connection to the spell. So, like, really, like, prepare your space. You really want to just, like, get yourself in that mindset and get all the things ready to do your spell. And then you're going to craft and cast your spell. So, like, let's say we're doing a tongue binding spell. We might get some clay. So if we're making a tongue binding spell, and again, you could definitely get, like, a beef tongue. But, we got some vegans out here. We also got some people like, I can't do it. So you can mix clay with ashes from burned paper, like signed documents or email, or on your paper, like a petition paper. You could get a piece of paper and write, like, your target's name, their birth date, and then, like, you can write a command over them, like, this is what you want to happen, like, stop talking gossip, stop talking shit, keep my name out of your mouth, keep my name out of your mind, out of your headspace, whatever it is you want to do. Do your words of power, write that down, and then maybe you burn that. You burn that and you focus on them being, like, shut down. You focus on them, like, when your name pops up, like, they, like, stop, like, they can't say anything, right? They don't speak of you, or they just can't gossip about you. Be specific. So you burn that paper, and then you use that paper and you mix it with the clay, or you could even mix in, like, the tag lock, the personal concern, like the hair piece or something, mix that as well in, or some herbs like that stop talking, whether you found, again, if you want to use intention paper and like, something, like, if you, like, let's say they're scared of a spider, get a big ass picture of a spider, or just a picture of a spider, and then on the front or the back, whatever, write your shit, and then use that, because that adds another layer into it, right? And then you burn it, use the ash, mix it with a personal concern or some herbs that are good for stopping gossip, like slippery or lobelia, whatever it is, mix it into your clay, and then shape the clay into a tongue. And as you focus on your desired result, you can use words of power, something like, your tongue is mine, your lies are bound, your words shall falter, your harm unwound. You like that? You like it? Your tongue is mine, your lies are bound, your words shall falter, your harm unwound. And then use, like, hot pepper powder to symbolize the burn of consequences and spit on the tongue for dominance. So it's like, you know what? I'm going to mix all this stuff in. I'm going to fashion the clay, fashion a tongue out of clay, name it after this person. And then I'm going to, as I'm doing that, I'm chanting, your tongue is mine, your lies are bound, your words shall falter, your harm unwound. And then when I'm done, I'm going to dust it with some hot pepper powder, to symbolize, like, the burn of, like, if you talk shit, you're going to feel the consequences. And, I might even, like, put, like, use a knife and cut the tongue, and then you put, like, some of the hot pepper powder, maybe a couple bits of lemon essential oil, and you focus on, like, oh, when they try to talk shit, it is going to sting, it is going to burn, and then you spit on it because I'm dominating you, right? This is my life you're talking about. Don't fuck with me. And then you can seal the spell. So you can use glue to seal the tongue, or wrap it with ribbon as you say something like, by my will, your harm is sealed. No more lies, no more ill, or whatever words of power you want to say. So once you've done that, seal it. So seal it the way you want it. With a ribbon, with glue, I don't know, get creative. And as you're doing that, you can use words of power to affirm, your binding. You could also charge the completed item under, like, moonlight or with focused energy. So, like, you could again charge this under, like, a dark moon. See, some people don't like to work with the dark moon. I do, especially for stuff like this. Or if you want to, You could do it on the full moon if the full moon is closer, and the full moon think as bright as fuck. So like they just really can't, like, you are expressing your dominance here, and you are having power over, and you are living your life, and they are shrinking. So as you get brighter, they are shrinking, and as they try to talk shit, they get smaller because you are this light, right? Cast that spell. This is just an idea that you can work with. I hope it inspires you to get creative and to come up with it whenever you need something like this. So I have a spell that I shared with patrons. It's more like a blend, and it was for around Yule, the winter solstice, and it's called Sucks to be Santa. And this blend is a creative way to silence gossipers and shift energy toward harmony. And so what I do is I have crushed candy canes. It's sticky, but it works well. So crushed candy cane, so that sweetens kind of the energy to bring harmony. Alum to stop gossip. Slippery elm to kind of like, again, to stop gossip, to hinder that and to smooth tension. Black walnut powder cuts toxic ties. I will add red sandalwood or even like dragon's blood, but fuck, dragon's blood is expensive. So depending on what I need or what I have available, it might not be dragon's blood, but red sandalwood to add like a power blood potency to the mix. Pokeru can amplify the spell's, again, intensity of what we're doing here to like stop gossip, stop this shit. Let's not use cards like the 6 of Pentacles, the 9 of Swords, and 10 of Swords to direct energy and intentions, basically to create a grid and imbue the power of these cards into the herbs to sort of like connect with each other and to be like, you know what, we're not fucking around. We're stopping this, or consequences are had and you're not going to like the way it feels. Crystals I utilize in this blend, Herkimer Diamond for focus and clear quartz for amplification. I use Herkimer and clear quartz to charge the blend. What I do is create a grid with the cards and crystals, however I like, however it works. And then you mix your ingredients together, focusing on silencing the toxic energy, focusing on like, you know what, stopping the bullshit, but also inviting. I utilize probably the crushed candy canes. It just depends, but normally at the end of the stuff, because towards the end of the blend, I will be like, I want something to be more sweet, to be more harmonious. And so as I mix, I focus on silencing the toxic energy, and then again, for things to start being a little more harmonious, sprinkle the blend in places tied to the target, offices, shared spaces, or even holiday cards. You could also make like a spell bag, right, to keep somewhere. So you could utilize a spell bag. You can do that. You can incorporate, again, it's just a blend, so you can incorporate this blend into the previous spell and maybe lightly like utilize this blend and circle the candles you use, or lightly dust the candle with this sort of herbal blend. You have to get creative. You have to have fun with it, and you have to think outside of the box sometimes. But yes, I do like these tarot cards for charging this blend. You could create this blend if you want to really get towards restriction. You could create this blend during the waning phase of the moon. I would definitely go, this is how I would do it. I'd create it on the waning phase of the moon or the dark of the moon. But if you really want to focus on maybe enhancing the harmonious aspect, which is very little, of this blend, you might start when the moon starts to wax. When it starts to grow, but you have to really program it to focus like, okay, this is a stop, silence gossip blend, but it also works to shift energy towards harmony. And that's what we're kind of highlighting for this blend. And you know what? Make the blend and in different moon phases and see how it works for you. See how it connects for you. See, what it does in the different circumstances. Well, again, we've talked about this a little bit. Like sometimes binding is the better choice, especially in situations where banishment isn't practical or possible. Like workplaces, you may need to coexist with gossiping coworkers, and binding allows you to neutralize their negativity without disrupting the environment. Family dynamics, binding can maintain peace while preventing harmful words or actions from escalating de-escalating shared social circles. A binding ensures that gossipers' behavior is restricted without creating unnecessary tension in your social group. Binding is about maintaining balance, silencing harm, and preserving harmony in spaces where permanent removal isn't an option. And so you can see, like, with what we've shared, like a little bit of what I've shared, some of the dry ingredients, the herbs and such that can be used, a little kind of construct of a spell, construct of a formula that you can kind of be creative with to stop gossip, to stop people from talking shit, and ways to execute it. As always, again, witchcraft is personal. Take these ideas, infuse them with your unique energy, and tailor them to your situation. Use this foundation as a guide, but trust your instincts to make the magic truly yours. When I say get creative, like, you have to take into consideration the type of witchcraft you practice, what you're capable of, what your strengths are. Maybe you focus more on crystals, so maybe you're gonna do that. Maybe whatever. But take what I have to say, understand, like, the mechanics of it, like why these things are being utilized, how they're being utilized, and then learn to adapt it to what works for you and your craft. Always add your own flair. And that kind of like segues into the next little bit, which is customizing binding spells for specific situations. Binding spells are, again, powerful tools, but they're not the one-size-fits-all thing that some people like to think. The effectiveness of your spell depends on how you tailor it to the specific situation. Whether you're dealing with workplace drama, social fallout, or personal betrayals, your approach should reflect the unique dynamics of each context. So let's dive into some specific strategies here, shall we? Workplace gossip. Keeping it professional and subtle. Gossip in the workplace is a tricky beast. It can destroy reputations, ruin morale, and make your 9-to-5 feel like a battleground. The key here is subtlety. You can't exactly light a black candle at your desk without raising eyebrows. Instead, try these methods. Again, cast at home. Do your working at home, obviously. That's the smartest way. Freeze your spell to cool heated words. So you can write the person's name and their harmful words on a piece of paper. Fold it tightly, focusing on sealing their energy and their negativity. Place it in a small container of water, adding slippery elm for silencing and alum for stopping gossip. Freezing it with the intent to cool their tongue and halt their harmful behavior. So that's something you could do. And then as you do that, you can chant, "Your words now freeze, harmful chatter cease. This space is clear, only peace remains near." So you could technically do that at work if you wanted to. But like, I honestly would probably do this at home. And then maybe, I would do this at home. Just depends on how ballsy you are, I guess. I don't even know why they say ballsy. It should be something else. Gross. You can create a discreet sachet with a lavender for calm, rosemary for clarity, and a small crystal like black tourmaline for protection. Include maybe some slippery elm. Include maybe like some cayenne for like to stop gossip and to be like, if you gossip, it's gonna burn type of energy, and keep it in your workspace to act as a protective charm, but also to help like keep people from talking some shit. You can make this blend big enough to sprinkle a pinch of it in inconspicuous places around your workplace, like desk corners, under your chair. You can, to sort of like protect and calm, but also to neutralize the talking of shit, without drawing too much attention. Like a little sprinkle here and there, I think, is going to be fine. Social circles, redirecting energy without burning bridges. In social situations, you may want to stop gossip without entirely severing ties. Binding spells here can help you restore harmony while addressing the issue head on. You can use like a pink candle for harmony, and a pink candle harmony for your social circle, or white candle for purification, or both. That's fine too. You could inscribe like specific sigils, symbols of power, whatever it is that aligns with your desired result. Inscribe that on the candle. Dress it with olive oil for healing, to bring healing here, and maybe roll it in a blend that is the blend we talked about earlier. You could do that maybe with some crushed like rose petals and lavender with alum, and you can lightly lightly dust the candle. We're not here making fire hazards. You could even you don't even have to put the dry bit on the candle. You can encircle the candle with your dry ingredients. Write the names of those involved in the gossip on parchment paper, folding it 3 times. I say fold 3 times in this towards yourself to draw peace. So you're kind of you're in the mix of you know what, we're in a social circle. This talking shit thing happens. That's life. I like these people. Let's kind of try to bring peace and calming and reconciliation here. And so as you're doing this, you can chant tongues of fire, lies untold, let the truth unfold, words now calm, our bond shall heal, no further harm. Hey, I'm not, poet. Use your words of power, basically stating you want peace and reconciliation, and you want this friend group or social circle to work out. Burn the parchment safely, imagining the gossip dissipating into ash and the relationship returning to balance. If the gossip feels overwhelming, consider redirecting the energy by working with a mirror spell. Place a small mirror in your ritual space and focus on reflecting the harmful energy away from yourself and back into the universe for neutralization. You could also, if you wanted to, just get into this sort of meditative state, light your candle if you'd like, and call forth that sort of energy, the gossip or whatever, and ask for it to be sent to Gaia, and see it go down to the center of Earth, to Gaia's womb, and ask for Gaia to sort of neutralize it and replace it with something more fitting, and then see the energy come out from Gaia and dispersed dispersed into the social circle, replacing the energy that was taken. When it's personal, family and close relationships. So when gossip comes from someone close to you, such as a family member, the situation can be more emotionally charged. In these cases, blending binding with elements of healing can help repair the relationship while silencing the harmful chatter, if that's what you want. Sometimes you just have to cut ties, no contact, but it's entirely up to you. Soothing and binding spell. So you can create a charm bag with maybe some herbs or curios to calm emotions. Also something for reconciliation, and maybe a personal tag lock from the target or personal item, personal concern. Add a small piece of amethyst to promote clear communication, and maybe some black tourmaline to transform any crusty, rough energy. And you can hold the bag and say, your words no longer harm or tear, our bond I mend with thought and care. Peace now flows, the harm undone, a path to healing has begun. And carry the charm or place it near your family photos to reinforce the energy of reconciliation. These are just ideas where you can customize it yourself in a way that fits your practice. I didn't want to get too specific. You could add the image if it's a specific family member or person that's really close to you. Add their image to the spell bag, right? If you need to add other items, do that. You could also use a simple clay figure to represent the target. As you mold it, speak your intent to quiet their harmful words. Incorporate maybe rosemary for mental clarity and connection, as well as familial bond and slippery element to the clay. Seal the figure in a box lined with protective herbs and place it in a safe space to let the energy work without confrontation. I would say if you want, after casting, right, something to stop gossip, maybe carry with you lobelia, which again is great to restrict harmful speech, and is great for silencing and neutralizing negativity. So like to kind of like carry that energy forward, if you're doing a spell in, for your work situation, carry a little bit of lobelia with you to kind of like affirm that boundary. Another thing you could do is like write the target's name and harmful actions on paper. We talked about this a little bit. Fold the paper and seal it with glue, visualizing their harmful words being stuck, unable to spread further. Add a drop of black ink to the glue to symbolize binding the negativity permanently. There's so many different things you can do with this. I hope that gives you some ideas. And you want to fold something towards you to bring it to you, fold something away from you to kind of cast it out or get rid of it. So use that little bit. For persistent gossipers, little bitches, use items they fear to amplify the spell's effectiveness. So we've talked about this, like the spider. For example, if they're wary of spiders, you can draw a small spider symbol on their tag lock and say, "Your fear now binds your tongue. Silence is your only song." This focuses their energy inward, making it difficult for them to direct harm outward. You could make like a little talisman too, like if you had clay, and you could have the tag lock in the clay with whatever herbs, and then maybe on the out, like you wrapped it in like spider wrapping paper, or you have like a little sachet, like a little bag that you make that is like spider fabric, and you have that in there. And again, you can keep that on you, and whenever they walk near, whenever you think of them, you can chant like, "Your fear now binds your tongue, silence is your only song," and focus on the spider getting bigger and like them in shock that they can't speak of you in a negative way. So that's just fun. There's so many different things to do, and I can just sit here forever. And this is too long, but I can sit here forever and talk about all the things. So I hope that you can enjoy that. All right, witches, welcome back to
Save Me, Rosemary,
the segment where our elder witch bitch serves wisdom straight up, no chaser. Today's question touches on some spell work struggles and a little extra magical finesse. So let's not waste any time and let's get into it. Dear Rosemary, I've got a problem. I've tried a binding spell to shut down some office gossip, but it's not working the way I hoped. It didn't really add anything of an herbal nature. Do you think herbs could help, or should I just try a different approach altogether?
Darling, first off, spells are like good wine. They take time, intention, and sometimes a little tweaking to get just right. If your binding spell didn't quite stick, it's not a failure. It's a sign to adjust, refine, and maybe give it an extra magical kick. Binding isn't a one-size-fits-all solution, and gossip has a nasty way of weaving itself into the cracks if you're not thorough. Let's talk herbs, shall we? Slippery elm is my personal go-to for shutting down gossip. Not only does it quiet loose lips, but also smooths over rough waters in a way that even the sharpest tongues can't cut through. Carry a sachet of it, burn it as incense if you'd like, or even mix it into a little jar spell with a few sharp pins to really nail your intent. And let's not forget the classics, rue and agrimony. Rue is all about reversing negativity, send that gossip right back to the mouths it fucking came from. And agrimony, it's like a cloak of invisibility. It's known for deflecting gossip and protecting your energy from unwanted attention. Yes. But listen closely, love. If you're still gossiping on the side while trying to silence others, you're not just fighting fire with fire. You're pouring gasoline on it, dumb bitch. Your magic is only as clean as your intentions. So yeah, you gotta make sure you're walking the talk. Make sure you're not gossiping out there as well, silly goose. Focus on your goal. Be specific and don't be afraid to layer your spell work. Sometimes it's the combination of actions that seals the deal. Oh, and if all else fails, a tongue-shaped clay puppet, some hot peppers, and a little spit for good measure can send a clear, fiery message. But remember, every spell you cast is an extension of your will, so make sure your will is as strong and steady as the herbs you're working with. Now go on, honey, and show that gossip who's boss.
Well, wasn't that just fun and exciting from Rosemary herself, little bitch? All right, my friends, keep that workspace clear of negativity and gossip and your magic on point. And that, my witches, is the art of binding and silencing gossip. We've covered a lot today, what binding really is, why it works, and how to wield it effectively. Whether you're dealing with a meddlesome coworker, a family member who just can't keep their opinions to themselves, or the occasional social circle snake, oh my god, say that 5 times fast, you now have a wealth of tools to take charge of the narrative. Binding is what you make it. It's about creating the boundaries that allow you to live in peace and harmony. Every spell you cast, every action you take is an extension of your will. Own it, refine it, and make it work for you. Gossip is a fire that thrives on attention, but as witches, we have the power to starve it, snuff it out, and redirect its energy. It's not about pretending it doesn't hurt or acting above it. It's about taking action that protects your peace and keeps you aligned with your path. The magic we've discussed today is not just for silencing others, but it's also a reminder to silence your own harmful tendencies. Gossip might feel like an easy way to bond or vent, but ultimately, it's a distraction from the real work of building meaningful connections and pursuing your goals. If you've ever faced the sting of gossip or found yourself in the trenches of workplace drama, we want to hear from you. How have you handled it? What magical or mundane tools have worked for you? Share your experiences, questions, or even your own binding spell recipes if you'd like with us in the comments or on social media, or even just connect with us on our Discord server. Find that information at noteverywitch.com/subscribe. And yeah, we look forward to connecting. Let's keep the conversation going and let's learn from each other. That's the beauty of it all. Let's learn, let's have fun, let's engage. And if this episode struck a chord, share it with someone who might need a little magical backup, whether they're new to witchcraft or seasoned practitioners. There's always something to gain from exploring these practices together. Don't forget to follow the podcast on your favorite platform and join the conversation at noteverywitch.com. So as I close, I'll leave you with this. Your words are powerful spells, your actions are echoes, and your magic is your truth. So go forth, weave your life with intention. Until next week, my friends, keep your boundaries strong, your intentions clear, and remember, when the chatter gets loud, your magic can always rise above it.